Good morning. Today we come in our devotional series on Concise Theology to a chapter on family. The family structure is established by God to make the foundation of society. We hear that in the words of Genesis that were quoted by both Jesus and Paul when the writer of Genesis said, "For this reason a man will leave his father and mother and be united to his wife, and the two will become one flesh." Certainly that is a oft-quoted passage at weddings for very good reason. And again, Jesus referred to it when he was asked about divorce, and Paul referred to it. Here's what Paul says in Ephesians about the structure of authority in the home. And this has certainly aroused a lot of interest over the years. Submit to one another out of reverence for Christ. Well, if you just ended there, that would give us a lot of work, wouldn't it? That we would be submissive to one another out of our reverence for Christ. But Paul goes on, "Wives, submit yourselves to your own husbands as you do to the Lord. For the husband is the head of the wife, as Christ is the head of the church, his body, of which he is the Savior. Now as the church submits to Christ, so wives should submit to their husbands in everything." And that submission is, of course, a big topic I don't have time to get into today. But when one reads the second part of this, one realizes why it's possible for a wife to have an attitude of, "Hey, you're the head," when her husband lives like this. "Husbands, love your wives just as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her to make her holy, cleansing her by the washing with water through the word, and to present her to himself as a radiant church without stain or wrinkle or any other blemish, but holy and blameless. In the same way, husbands ought to love their wives as their own bodies. He who loves his wife loves himself. After all, no one ever hated their own body, but they feed and care for their body, just as Christ does for the church. For we are members of his body. For this reason, a man will leave his father and mother and be united to his wife, and the two will become one flesh." This is a profound mystery, but I'm talking about Christ and the church. However, each of you must also love his wife as he loves himself, and the wife must respect her husband. So, without getting into a long discourse on this passage, the idea is that the husband leads by laying his life down for his wife. And I have been just recently reminded of this passage and how in the normal frictions of marriage, which we all have, our job is to, as husbands, lay our lives down for our wives. And when we forget that, that creates problems. And frankly, I'm sure you wives could say to each other, when you forget to show respect to your husbands, it causes all kinds of problems. But this is the structure of the family, that the husband and wife work together as authority over the children, and that's talked about right after this in chapter 6, and that husbands and wives relate to each other with mutual respect and mutual submission in the ways Paul talks about in Ephesians 5. A lot to think about, but certainly important as we think about the foundational nature of the family in God's economy of the world. Have a great day.